Hi everyone. Today I just want to come on here and tell you the story of how and why we owned, past tense, a van 2 years ago. Had it for like a year or two. I just wanted to have this story, I guess, live on the internet forever, as things do. A couple years ago, I bought an old Mercedes van from some dude. I think it was like in 2021, February 2021. Since I was like 15 or something, I would consume a huge amount of content around tiny houses and then van life, and I thought it was such an efficient, smart way to live, and I just lived vicariously through these people's videos. So I always wanted to maybe one day own a van, and since I'm impulsive, I bought a van for a really good price. This guy had redone the van himself. It was a Mercedes Vito from 1999. We took the train down to Sandefjord, had a look, and drove away with it. It had a couple of issues that we had to fix, but nothing major. I'm terrified of driving. I think it's one of my biggest fears. And I thought, if I have a car, I'll be forced to drive. Little did I know, that was not the case. And took a quick trip over Easter, which was an interesting trial run. We were freezing, the mattress was too small. It was so magical and so fun to be in the van and make food in the van. Everything's a little more exciting when you're doing normal, mundane things outside. You change the environment and it like makes your brain sparkle. Van tour, it's not the best lighting and it's not the most aesthetic because I took these videos in the parking garage of the apartment I was living in at the time. Excuse the aesthetics, but you get the gist of it, and it's really cute. We got this pink fuzzy from a shop called Biltema, and it was such a vibe. We loved it, and the new owners also wanted to keep it. The guy who built this did such a good job adding a huge amount of storage. We used this backspace as a garage of some sorts. We had like tools, wood, the barbecue, and it was so genius how he made it so that there was seating space in the back with the trunk open and in the inside of the van, two like couches essentially. The inside was also surprisingly spacious, and he gave us a heater that we didn't use because it was a little iffy. But we used this drawer for our heavier clothes and items that we wouldn't reach for every day. The car only had 85,000 kilometers because it was used as a short trip transport truck for disabled passengers, and that's why it has a bunch of buttons and electronics in here. But we also there was so much storage in the front, we used the heck out of it. We were very happy with it and eventually put our fridge there. Under the sink there was a 20 liters clean and 20 liters grey water with the cooktop sandwiched between the two. The sink was a manual pump that was pretty smooth actually, and there's fresh water everywhere in Norway, so it's quite easy for dishes, brushing our teeth and whatnot. We put the cutlery on this magnetic bar. One time I actually reached back from while we were driving to grab a spoon and almost grabbed a knife. That was a good learning experience. Cooking with a view is such a superior experience, even if it's chicken nuggets. That's the knife in question. We got Dahlia a dog bed, but she ignored it, and we exchanged the dog bed for a fridge after our food got spoiled in our cooler. The unfolding of the bed didn't take that long, but you kind of needed two people. He cut the bench in half like that so that he could have a little bench, only one pulled out as a little bench when he was cooking. We never used it as such, but it was a fun idea. When the bed was fully pulled out, it took almost all the space, and we share the bed with the dog. We tried extending that end there with a box where we put her dog bed, but she was not having it and just wanted to cozy up next to us. The bed was 120 centimeters by 200 centimeters long. And Norway, fun fact, is one of the only countries that still has Surge, except it's called Urge here, and it's so tasty, and it is definitely better than Mountain Dew. We then took a longer trip for 2 weeks in June of that same year. It was such a relaxing, amazing trip from Oslo all the way down to Stavanger and around the fjords in that area. And since Norway is free parking, we could stop anywhere we wanted with these like insane views. It was a little bit easier than I had anticipated, going to the bathroom, finding water and all of these things. To conclude the story, at the end of the day, I'm still terrified of driving. I drove very little with it. Every time I had it on those small roads with the fjords, I was slightly terrified because the roads felt so small and I was like passing trucks and everything. So that didn't help. We ended up buying a Citroën C4, which is even worse than the van, but I don't want to get into that right now. I think we owned the van for 2 years and we only took it on that one trip in June, so it wasn't the best investment. A car is never an investment. The amount we were using it, it was unreasonable to keep the car. This car had low mileage, so it deserved to be out in the world and explored. We had no mechanical experience. We couldn't invest in learning car mechanics. And you'd think like, oh, an old Mercedes from the 90s should be an easy car to have looked by mechanics. But in Oslo or Norway, the mechanics didn't want to touch our car with a 10-foot pole. Even our car from 2015, people are not interested in looking at. Finding a mechanic that would look at it, and it was costing a fortune in like repairs, obviously, because we didn't know what we were doing. It wasn't working out. That's why we no longer have a van. I miss it. I'm glad I did it, and I have no regret. My suggestion is maybe don't buy a car straight out, or if you buy a car, make sure you can resell it for a decent price. Maybe try it out. Like you can rent vans on Airbnb or whatever Craigslist is in your country. Don't regret not doing it, you know? You should try things. Trying things is the best way to figure out if you like it or not. That's my little poetic philosophy for this video. Thanks for tuning in. As always, let me know if you've ever had a converted van or want to travel in a converted van. Yeah, if you like this video, just let me know, and I'll see you next one. Bye.